the cost of being vulnerable? What's the cost of telling people what I'm going through, or what I'm thinking, or what I've been learning? It costs how they see me, you know? It costs sometimes the emotion of just feeling vulnerable. But what's the underlying reality? I'm hidden in Christ. There's nothing actually that can get me out of him, and I have no reputation outside of him. And so I wanted to just put that out for you as you reflect, because one way I thought is that you could write what you're thinking and like kind of save the vulnerability, but I really think it's good for us to talk with each other and to be accountable sometimes in just what we say. And that doesn't necessarily mean you'll go tapping on someone and be like, so you said this, but maybe you need to as well. So just have that in mind. So I put together a couple of slides, and I really hope this doesn't feel like class. Just bear with. I mean, we're all students, yeah? So we have geek mode, it's fine. PowerPoint all the time, it's fine. No judgment. But I thought it would actually be easier. And this slide is really Freire. Let me just be honest. Paulo Freire has influenced my life a lot. But this is the point of why we're reflecting. And I'm not going to talk the whole time, believe me, you will have time. But I just want to paint a picture of how we'll go about it. That knowledge is incomplete without action, and I hope this makes sense. As you act, let me just paraphrase it instead of reading what's there, right? You don't really know something if you're not able to act out on what you supposedly know. And then once you act, you realize how much you know or how much more you need to know. Does that make sense? Think of it like kind of a cycle, yeah? And so that's what we're reflecting on today. How can we act? What do we know? What can we do? When we do what we can do, what do we need to know some more? And then we can't do it alone. And so as we share in our group, our table discussions, I have a few questions that actually one question that's broken down in 3 parts. What have you learned about the US justice system, criminal justice system? What have you learned? What one new thing, because I'm sure we've come from different places in our exposure to the criminal justice system. So what's a new thing that you've learned? If there are many new things, that's okay. Just narrow it to one. From what you've learned, what does that mean for your community? How does it relate to your community? Now, I know that's a tricky question for us because we are coming from so many different places. So qualify that by yourself, however broad or narrow you want to make that. And then for you personally, and this is the one I know that can be a little personal. And so if you need a pass, just pass, that's okay. Here are some of the things we touched were, we need to act. If you only hear stuff and you don't act, then you lose something, and you actually lose the knowledge. But here we are, TEDS, TGS, TC students. We're students. We're involved in so many things. You're pastors, you're teaching. There's so much already on your plate. You're like, what else can I do? You have kids, you're married, you're dating, you're engaged, so many things. How do you be healthy in all that and not run yourself out? And so there are different ways you can do that, and I want you to be free at your table to share how and what that looks like. But I'll give you an example for me. I got this, after we watched Selma, I had so much in my brain, I thought I was going to explode, and I had papers to write, and I wanted to do everything. Be on the streets, writing essays, poems, spoken word, everything. But I have to write a dissertation, and I didn't have a topic. That's weeping and wailing, not gnashing of teeth, but like almost rolling on the ground. And so I had been given this book, and I decided, it's been years since I wrote any poetry, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to write. And later I'll read you one of the things I wrote, much later, but that's just an example of something, some way to act, to get out some of what you're learning. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it may be activism, active activism, it may be scholarly activism, it may be activism through prayer and intercession, it may be mobilizing people to talk. So just have that in mind, yeah? So just get into your tables and talk about this question, if you don't mind. And I'll cue you when it's time to come back. admonition, which is there. And I call it an admonition because it just felt so pastoral. And these are literally, I literally just typed out what I was transcribing, basically, their interviews. When he said, ask God, where do you want me in this? Is it in prayer? And he quoted James 5:16, the earnest and fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much, is effective. Different versions there. Is it contributing to the needs? And he didn't qualify that, but you can kind of figure out what he meant. Is it in face-to-face ministry? And that's where he expounded a little more on how that's a lot more challenging and the need to know, just the need to go where God's gifts in your life are. And I was wondering if you could share with each other in your groups. And here I'm actually going to give you an option because I had two ideas that seemed too much fun, so I thought I'd present them to you instead of deciding for you. One idea was for you guys just to stay in groups and share with each other. So, do you mind putting the next slide up? This was so this is the second idea actually. The first idea was like stay in groups. Yeah, you know, cute. Second idea was to spread out and gather with people who share like these are 4 rough categories, areas we could be involved in the ways you're inclined or in your capacity right now. For example, I'm a practical person. I like doing stuff. But right now, I'm doing a PhD. It's not that practical. It's quite theoretical. So I have to study a lot. So even though I would want to be the creative arts or the activism group or like the activity, right now, I have to study a lot. And so I'm in the scholarship group. Yeah? That's not my natural inclination. So I partner with someone like Jody. I'm like, lend me your brain, help me. I just had to do that because we have an ongoing joke in our cohort. So there's scholarship, activism, intercession, and creative arts. And the second idea, which if you want to do, you decide, is to gather with people who have your similar giftings or where you find yourself.